He had never imagined that finding a simple roommate would turn his life upside down. For years he had lived alone in his small apartment, enjoying quiet nights with nothing but the hum of city lights outside and the soft glow of his holoscreen. Rent was high, the city crowded, and human interactions often drained him, but he liked his routine. It was predictable, safe, and peaceful. That was until she arrived. The ad had been simple: looking for a roommate. Apartment near Central Transit. Clean, respectful, no drama. Had posted it hoping for another human, someone to split costs with. Someone who would not talk endlessly or insist on rearranging the furniture. He never expected an alien to reply. Her name was Lyra when she arrived. She stepped through the doorway like she belonged to another world entirely. Her figure was slender but graceful, her movements precise, almost as if gravity itself acknowledged her presence differently. Her skin had a faint pearlescent sheen, soft and smooth, catching the light from the ceiling in ways that made him blink twice. Her hair shifted subtly between shades of silver and pale violet depending on the angle, and her eyes glowed faintly, bright like distant stars. "Hello?" she said, her voice musical but firm. She sounded polite, yet there was a curiosity in her tone, a sharp awareness that made him feel exposed even though she had just walked in. "Hi," he managed, fumbling with the door handle that still hung half open behind her. "You're, Lyra." She inclined her head slightly, smiling. "Yes, I am Lyra. I am here to occupy the other room." He nodded, still staring. There was something about her that was mesmerizing but unsettling at the same time. Humans could be beautiful, yes, but this was different. Something about her presence made him feel small, as if the apartment itself had expanded to fit her. "I, guess you've seen the room?" he asked, stepping aside to let her in. "Yes, it is acceptable," she said, walking with perfect precision across the floor. She paused by the window and looked at the city skyline. "The structure of this human city is intriguing. You have optimized space for vertical habitation." He laughed nervously. "Yeah, we humans are creative that way, so, you don't mind the rent split?" She turned to him, her glowing eyes studying him intently. "I am aware of the arrangement. I have considered your proposal. It is suitable for my needs." He nodded again, but he was already noticing small things. She had an intense focus on him, almost as if she were studying him. Every movement, every gesture, every micro-expression he made seemed to matter. It was not exactly creepy, but it was unsettling. He had dealt with humans who were curious, but nothing like this. The first few days were normal enough. She unpacked quickly, organizing her belongings with machine-like precision. She did not ask unnecessary questions and rarely spoke unless she had to. Yet small behaviors kept catching him off guard. She watched him eat, observed how he typed at his computer, and once followed him silently as he watered his small collection of indoor plants. Then came the conversation that changed everything. It happened late one night. He had been cooking pasta in the kitchen when she appeared in the doorway. "You prepare this meal?" "Often?" she asked, tilting her head. "Yes," he said cautiously. "It's simple. Quick, cheap, human basics." "I see. And do humans reproduce in this way?" she asked suddenly, her eyes narrowing slightly. He froze, fork in hand. What?" "You eat together. You share food. You interact closely. Is this part of reproduction?" she asked, tilting her head again. He laughed awkwardly, hoping to dismiss it as a joke. "No, that's just dinner. Humans don't. We don't. Never mind." Lyra's expression did not change, but he could see a spark of fascination. "Interesting. I must learn more. I must understand human mating patterns." It was the way she said it, so direct, so serious, that he almost dropped the pot. "Mating patterns?" he repeated, incredulous. "You mean like practice?" She inclined her head. "Yes, I am to learn the human approach. You are convenient. You are suitable for study." The words hit him like a cold gust. "Wait, what?" You want to use me? She seemed puzzled by his reaction. Use is an inappropriate term. I intend to practice observation, interaction. You are a test subject for knowledge acquisition. No harm is intended. He stared at her, blinking rapidly. This was not what he had signed up for when he wanted a roommate. He wanted someone to share rent, not someone who treated him like a living textbook. Yet, despite his shock, he could not deny that a part of him was curious. She was not human, and her perspective was alien in ways he had never imagined. Fine, he said cautiously, trying to sound firm. You can observe, but nothing weird. Okay? No. No experiments without my say-so. She tilted her head slightly, considering. Understood. Consent is acknowledged. I will comply. The next days became a strange routine. She followed him through his daily life, asking questions about habits, emotions, and social interactions. She would sit silently as he brushed his teeth, noting every detail. She asked about laughter, sadness, human intimacy, and how people formed attachments. At first he tried to joke, to make light of it, but she never laughed at jokes. She only listened, absorbed, and occasionally asked more probing questions. One afternoon, she handed him a small device, sleek and alien in design. This will measure your reactions to stimuli, she said simply. He frowned. Stimuli. Yes, your responses. To emotions. To touch. To social interaction, she clarified. He laughed nervously. I didn't sign up to be a science experiment. You agreed to allow observation, she said evenly. This is within the boundaries. He sighed, realizing there was no arguing. Fine, but no weird stuff? Okay? I don't want alarms going off. Or whatever. She nodded solemnly. Agreed. Over time, he began noticing something remarkable. Despite the strange circumstances, he found himself enjoying parts of this arrangement. She had no judgment, no assumptions, no pretenses. Her curiosity was pure, and her questions forced him to think about humanity in ways he had never considered. He began explaining why humans did what they did, not just how, and he realized that humans were capable of ingenuity, compassion, courage in ways even he had overlooked. One evening the city was quiet. He was reading on the sofa when she approached, standing silently by the window. Why do humans fear so much? She asked. He looked up, surprised. Fear, we fear danger, failure, loss. Things that hurt us. But you continue. You persist, even when you fear? She asked, her eyes glimmering softly. Yes, he said slowly. Because being human isn't just about survival. It's about connection, curiosity, courage. Trying, even when it's hard, she considered this, tilting her head. This is impressive. Your species exhibits qualities worthy of admiration. Perhaps observation alone is insufficient. Interaction provides deeper understanding. He chuckled softly. Well, I guess that's why you're here. You're learning from me, right? She nodded. Yes, you are. My teacher in some ways. You demonstrate human qualities in a manner textbooks cannot convey. He felt a mix of pride and confusion. Here he was, an ordinary human, living his ordinary life, and suddenly he was teaching an alien being about the essence of humanity. It was absurd, humbling, and strangely satisfying all at once. Later that night, as he lay in bed, he reflected on the situation. He had wanted a roommate to split costs, nothing more. Instead, he had been pulled into a world far larger than he imagined. A world where humans were fascinating, complex, and capable of inspiring wonder in beings from distant stars. Despite the awkwardness, the embarrassment, and the occasional panic over her direct questions, he felt proud. He realized that humans, even ordinary ones like him, could be extraordinary in ways that mattered. He was not just a man in a city. He was an example, a window into the brilliance of his species. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was worth a little discomfort. He drifted to sleep that night with a sense of anticipation. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more observations, and likely more moments where he would feel awkward beyond belief. Yet he was ready. He had survived life alone, and now he would survive life with a being from another world, who saw him not as a roommate, but as a guide, a teacher, and in her own alien way, a companion in the exploration of humanity. And so, life changed. What started as a simple search for a roommate had become an unexpected journey into the heart of what it meant to be human. The next morning, the city seemed unusually quiet. The hum of vehicles and distant chatter filled the streets. But there was a sense of anticipation in the air, a feeling that something was about to happen. He noticed it as he sipped his morning tea, Lyra sitting across from him, her luminescent eyes bright with focus. "Today," she said calmly, "we continue lessons in human interaction. You will provide examples of social courage and emotional connection. It is essential for full comprehension of your species." He sighed, smiling wryly. "Social courage. Emotional connection? You make it sound like a university course." "It is research," she replied. "Observation alone is insufficient. I require practical experience." He laughed softly, shaking his head. "All right, practical experience. Let's see what we can do." The day began with simple tasks. He guided her through greetings at the market, teaching her how humans use tone, body language, and facial expression to convey politeness. She mimicked him perfectly, though without the natural flow humans had. Passersby stared for a moment, clearly noticing her unusual features. But she moved with such calm confidence that no one dared to comment. He realized that human courage was not just about physical action, it was about presence, composure, and awareness. Next, they visited a local park, where he explained the subtleties of friendship and trust. He demonstrated how humans comforted each other during stressful moments, how a simple hand on the shoulder or a supportive word could mean more than any grand gesture. She watched attentively, replicating his actions carefully, and he noticed her mimicking not just the gestures, but the intention behind them. "Connection is more than motion," he said. "It is understanding and caring. Humans show it through actions that may seem small, but are meaningful." Lyra nodded slowly. "Observation alone cannot capture meaning. Intent must be considered," he smiled. That was exactly what he had been trying to teach her. It was one thing to mimic behavior, another to understand the human heart behind it. As they walked back through the city streets, sudden commotion caught his attention. A group of humans had cornered a young alien child, shouting in anger and waving sticks. Instinctively, he moved forward, Lyra at his side. "Stay behind me," he whispered, keeping his voice low but firm. She tilted her head. "I will observe." "You act..." He squared his shoulders and approached the group, projecting confidence and authority. "Leave him alone," he said loudly. "You are not welcome to harm him." The group hesitated, clearly surprised by his boldness. One of them stepped forward, trying to assert dominance, but he remained calm, steady, and unwavering. Lyra watched every movement, recording and analyzing silently. His courage, his ability to protect without aggression, fascinated her. Eventually, the group backed down, muttering threats but retreating. He exhaled, relief flooding through him, and turned to the child, who was shaking but unharmed. Lyra knelt beside the child, speaking gently in her melodic voice, calming him with careful words and gestures. He realized then that bravery and compassion together made humans remarkable. "That was impressive," Lyra said quietly as they walked home. "You demonstrated courage, strategic thinking, and empathy simultaneously. Observation alone cannot prepare one for such a situation. Experience is required," he chuckled, shaking his head. "Glad I could be your practical lesson. But it wasn't just for you. It reminded me why humans are humans. We endure, adapt, and protect others, even when it's hard." Back at the apartment, Lyra set up her devices, reviewing the day's events meticulously. "Your species exhibits qualities worthy of respect: courage, empathy, ingenuity, resilience. Observation alone cannot capture these traits fully. Interaction is essential." He nodded, feeling a sense of pride he had never experienced before. Lyra's admiration was not superficial. She saw the essence of humanity, the small yet extraordinary traits that made humans capable of greatness. Over the following weeks, their bond deepened further. Lyra's lessons became more nuanced, moving beyond physical gestures to emotional understanding. He taught her how humans express care, how subtle acts of kindness could strengthen bonds, and how trust was built over time. She absorbed everything, her alien mind processing patterns, meanings, and intentions. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the city lights, she spoke softly. "I no longer require practice in the sense I initially intended. Observation and controlled interaction are insufficient for comprehension. I have learned that humans are remarkable in ways beyond analysis." He smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "You mean you don't need me to be a test subject anymore?" She shook her head slightly. "No. You have provided more than data. You have provided understanding. You have shown courage, patience, empathy, and creativity. These qualities cannot be replicated artificially." He laughed softly. "Well, I guess that's a relief. I was starting to feel like a living textbook." She inclined her head, her eyes glowing faintly. "Perhaps you are more than a textbook. You are a guide to understanding human essence." He felt a mixture of embarrassment and pride. She had been using him for learning, yes, but in doing so, she had also helped him see himself and his species more clearly. Humans were capable of extraordinary things, and ordinary people, like him, could make a difference in ways they never imagined. Days later, a new challenge arose. A sudden citywide alert warned of an alien threat approaching a malfunctioning drone fleet from a distant system, likely scouting for resources. The authorities scrambled, but response time was slow. Lyra and he realized that they could not wait. Using the knowledge they had gained about technology, humans, and strategy, they devised a plan. He would coordinate with the city's network, guiding automated defense systems, while Lyra would use her alien knowledge to predict drone behavior and counteract their movements. Together, they became a team, a human and an alien, combining their strengths. The battle was tense but brief. With careful timing and precise execution, they neutralized the drones without harm to the city or its inhabitants. Neighbors watched in awe as the two worked seamlessly together. Humans inspired by his courage, and aliens by her ingenuity. After the crisis, Lyra turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "Your species demonstrates capability beyond expectation. Creativity, resilience, courage, these qualities are not merely survival mechanisms. They are expressions of value, of essence. I no longer need controlled practice to understand humans. Interaction has provided insight impossible to replicate otherwise." He smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment unlike anything he had known. "I guess that means I've graduated your human lessons?" She inclined her head, eyes glowing softly. "You have taught me more than I expected. Lessons in courage, compassion, and adaptability are more valuable than any data set." In the following weeks, life returned to a quieter rhythm. They continued their routines, but now with a deeper understanding of each other. He no longer felt like a test subject, and she no longer approached him as one. They were partners in exploration, each learning from the other in ways that transcended species. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the balcony, Lyra spoke again. "I have learned the essence of humanity. Not merely gestures, not merely words, but the heart behind them. Courage in the face of danger, compassion for others, ingenuity in adversity, these define your species." He nodded, feeling the truth of her words. Humans were remarkable not because of technology or strength alone, but because of their choices, their resilience, and their capacity to care. And now, she understood that, not through observation alone, but through interaction, trust, and shared experience. "I wanted a roommate," he said softly, "and I got something much more than that. Someone who challenged me, taught me, and reminded me what it means to be human." Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes warm in the fading light. "And I have learned not just about your species, but about your heart. Humans possess qualities worthy of admiration, and ordinary individuals like you exemplify these traits." He smiled, feeling a deep sense of connection. It was not romantic, not in the way humans might think, but it was profound in its own way, a bond forged through understanding, respect, and shared experience. They had both grown, each teaching the other the essence of their own existence. As night fell, he reflected on the journey that had begun with a simple roommate search. He had expected ordinary, predictable life, and instead, he had encountered the extraordinary. Humans, even ordinary humans, could inspire courage, admiration, and wonder in beings from distant stars. And in helping Lyra understand humanity, he had come to understand it more fully himself. The city lights twinkled below, reminder that life went on, complex and unpredictable. But he was ready. He knew that humans could endure, adapt, and inspire. He knew that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary things when faced with challenge, curiosity, and opportunity. And as he looked at Lyra, he knew that what had started as a strange experiment had transformed into a partnership built on respect, trust, and mutual growth. She no longer needed practice. She had learned the truth. Humans were remarkable, capable of courage and compassion, and that ordinary individuals could leave a lasting impact on the universe for him. Life had changed in ways he could never have predicted. A simple roommate search had brought him an alien companion, a journey of discovery, The morning sunlight fell softly through the apartment window, illuminating the small living room with a golden glow. He stretched and yawned, ready to face another day in what had become a very unusual life. Lyra was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the floor with a device in her hands, her luminescent eyes scanning it with intense focus. He had grown used to seeing her like this, calm, precise, and completely absorbed in her studies. "Good morning," he said cautiously, trying not to startle her. She looked up, her gaze steady. "Good morning. Did you sleep adequately?" "I guess," he said, shrugging. "You know, same as usual." She nodded once, as if that was enough information. "Your routines are consistent. That is beneficial. I learn patterns through observation, repetition, and comparison." He blinked. Patterns. Right. Lyra had begun arranging their days in a careful balance of human observation and alien research. She asked questions about everything: food, music, conversation, even how humans touched or held objects. It was strange to have his everyday life dissected, but he found that explaining himself to her gave him new insight. He began noticing details he had never paid attention to: why a song made him feel a certain way, why his friends laughed at jokes he thought were simple, how a smile could ease tension. "Today," she announced, her voice calm and serious, "we will practice social interaction. You will guide me through human greetings, expressions of emotion, and physical contact in acceptable ways." He groaned softly. "You mean small talk and handshakes?" She tilted her head. "Correct. Handshakes, gestures, touch protocols. These are essential for understanding human mating behavior at a fundamental level." He hesitated. Mating behavior. Yes. Observation alone is insufficient. Experience, even controlled, provides a deeper understanding, she explained. He sighed. "Fine, but you have to promise. Nothing weird. Just normal social stuff." She inclined her head. "Agreed." They began with handshakes. He demonstrated how humans typically greeted each other: firm but not aggressive, polite yet not distant. She repeated after him, her movements exact but stiff, and he had to stifle a laugh at how serious she looked while performing such a simple act. "Why do humans shake hands?" she asked. "It's a way to show trust," he said, smiling. "It's like saying, 'I am not a threat.'" She processed this information silently, then replicated the gesture with perfect accuracy. "Interesting. Trust through coordinated motion. Noted." Next came greetings with words. He explained casual conversation, small talk, and polite phrases. She listened carefully, repeating each sentence with perfect clarity, but without the slightest change in tone or expression. He realized that her mimicry was flawless, She could not convey the subtle, emotional undertones humans naturally added. "You speak without variation in emotion," he said after a moment. "You sound precise. I communicate with clarity first. Emotions are secondary." "Observation must be accurate," she replied. He nodded, understanding. It was true. In many ways, humans relied on emotional nuance to communicate, while she relied on accuracy. He began experimenting, exaggerating facial expressions and tone, watching her reactions. Each time, she would mimic exactly what she saw, yet the smallest differences in subtle gestures fascinated her. He realized that humans were beautiful in their inconsistency, in the imperfect way they showed feelings. After several hours of this strange yet oddly rewarding practice, he took a break and made them both tea. Lyra observed the process quietly, her eyes following each movement. She seemed fascinated not just by the act of drinking, but by the ritual itself, the warmth of the cup, the smell of the leaves, the steam curling in the air. "Why do humans find pleasure in this?" she asked finally. "Because it's comforting," he said. "It's simple, but it connects us to the moment. It reminds us we're alive." She nodded, as if filing away this information. "Connection to existence. Noted. This will be useful." As the days passed, their routine became more intricate. She designed exercises that seemed ridiculous at first, tasking him to act out emotional responses, describing feelings in elaborate detail, even demonstrating what she called affection simulation, which was essentially her practicing human touch in the most careful, controlled way possible. He had to guide her, showing how to hold a hand lightly, how to pat someone on the back, how to give a hug that felt genuine rather than forced. Each session was awkward, embarrassing, and yet strangely fascinating. He found himself laughing at her over-precise movements, while she recorded everything meticulously in her device, analyzing patterns and responses. One afternoon, while he was explaining why humans often comfort each other in times of fear, they were interrupted by a sudden commotion outside the building. He went to the window and saw a group of humans, their expressions harsh, their movements aggressive. He immediately recognized the signs. This was a xenophobic gang that had been causing trouble in the area, particularly targeting alien residents. "Lyra," he said quietly, pulling her away from the window, "stay back. This could get dangerous." She tilted her head, her eyes glowing faintly. "Dangerous? Explain." "I require information to assess risk and appropriate response." Frowned. "Just stay behind me. Don't draw attention." The group outside banged on doors, shouting threats. One of them caught sight of Lyra's alien features and hissed, "Get that freak out of here. She doesn't belong in this city." He felt a surge of anger. Humans were capable of cruelty, but he refused to let them harm her. Without thinking, he grabbed a metal rod from the corner of the balcony, stepping between her and the threat. "You will not touch her," he shouted. His voice carried over the street, commanding and loud. Lyra watched silently as he faced the aggressors. His movements were human, but precise, confident. She noted every detail: how he positioned himself, how he projected his voice, the way his stance showed resolve. He did not strike, but his presence alone deterred them. The group hesitated, then, realizing they were outmatched in courage and confidence, eventually retreated. Lyra's eyes softened as she looked at him. "Your species demonstrates courage and strategic thinking. Fascinating. Observation alone cannot capture this. Experience is essential." He laughed softly, lowering the rod. "Glad you're learning. But seriously, you scared me for a second when you stayed so calm." She inclined her head. "Calm assessment allows better observation. Emotions may interfere with learning." Despite her words, he sensed something deeper in her gaze, a recognition of his bravery, of human ingenuity. He realized that his species, often underestimated by others, had qualities that transcended mere survival. Courage, quick thinking, empathy, and resilience were human traits that could inspire even the most advanced beings. In the following weeks, their interactions deepened. She asked more personal questions, not about mating, but about human emotions, fears, and ambitions. He shared stories of his childhood, of moments when humans showed unexpected kindness or bravery. She listened attentively, absorbing every detail, and gradually, he began to see her not just as a student of humanity, but as a being capable of understanding. Learning and perhaps appreciation one evening. As they walked through the city park, he noticed how she observed even the smallest details. She watched children play, animals interact, couples walk hand in hand. Why do humans form bonds? She asked. Because connection is essential, he replied. It helps us survive, yes, but more than that, it gives life meaning. It teaches us to care, to empathize, to grow. She considered this, nodding slowly. I see. Interaction beyond necessity. A higher purpose. Noted. He smiled at her, a genuine warmth spreading through him. He realized that teaching her, guiding her, and protecting her had changed him. He had become more confident, more aware of what it meant to be human, and more appreciative of the ordinary acts that made life remarkable. As they returned home, he reflected on the strange path his life had taken. What had started as a simple quest for a roommate had become a journey into understanding himself and his species. Lyra, in her curiosity and precision, had pushed him to see human qualities in ways he had never considered. Courage, kindness, empathy, humor, creativity, these were not just words. They were actions, choices, and patterns that defined his species and set humans apart in the vast galaxy. Lyra paused at the apartment door, looking at him with her glowing eyes. I have learned much. Yet observation alone is insufficient. Direct experience is required for full comprehension. He sighed, smiling wryly. I think we both know what that means, don't we? She inclined her head slightly, expression neutral. Yes, further practice. Necessary? For full understanding, he laughed softly, shaking his head. Well, if it helps you understand humans better, I guess I can survive a little more practice. That night, as he lay in bed, he realized how much he had grown in such a short time. He had learned to teach, to protect, and to empathize in ways he never imagined. Lyra had learned more than he expected, to not just about human mating patterns, but about courage, adaptability, and the small yet remarkable qualities that made humans extraordinary. He drifted to sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring more challenges, more lessons, and perhaps even more danger. Yet he felt ready. Humans were capable of extraordinary things when tested. They could endure, adapt, and inspire. And in that, he found not just hope, but pride. The journey was far from over,